Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. I'm Rob McClendon. Well, in these United States of America, probably no one is more recognizable than our first president, George Washington. But what do we really know about the man behind all those iconic images? Today, we're going to delve into exactly who George Washington was and why that still matters today. In studio with us today is Clark Musser, an Oklahoman who has spent much of his retirement telling the story of George Washington, a great and a good man. So Clark, of all the enlightened men that started what became these United States, George Washington is always considered our founding father. Why is that?
That's a great question, Rob. George Washington's greatness is established by the fact that he played three seminal roles in our nation's founding. The first role was as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, victorious over England, from which we earned our independence. The second role that Washington played was the President of the Constitutional Convention. That was a body of men, 39 men at the end, that issued forth into the world our U.S. Constitution, which of course is the document that frames our national government. It creates Congress, the office of the President, and the Supreme Court. George Washington served as the president of that body. The Constitution is today the most important, the most influential secular document in the history of the world, certainly in the history of Western civilization. And the third role is the one that first comes to mind when we think of the father of our country. He was our nation's first president. He was elected unanimously, and he was re-elected unanimously. Historians tell us that if they had conducted polls at the end of his second term, he would have received a 90% popularity rating. Service in those three roles doesn't necessarily tell us about Washington's goodness. Washington's goodness is determined by what he did as Commander-in-Chief, President of the Constitutional Convention, and as our first president. That Washington did not overtly seek any of these three roles of responsibility. In fact, he didn't want any of these three roles. He reluctantly accepted these roles when he was asked. But once he accepted these roles, he performed to the very best of his ability and reached such a degree of excellence that he earned great power and influence over the military and the people, which takes us to the second theme. George Washington, unlike all other comparable figures in Western civilization, save only one, relinquished power. Only one other comparable figure who had risen to glory on the battlefield, moved into the political arena, ultimate power over the military and the people. Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus, ancient Rome, 450 BC, had ultimate power. Cincinnatus relinquished ultimate power and retired to his farm. George Washington relinquished ultimate power and retired to his farm. That second theme is the pinnacle, not only of greatness, but of goodness. And the relinquishment of power is what I hope will be conveyed today as George Washington's most important contribution to our nation and to history.
Now, when we return, we explore George Washington's military years.